This is my feel-good story for the month, for the year, about how President Carter gave up his celebrity status. Now, the audience might not know this. Hi, audience, you don't know this, but Andrew and I, we get flown in by our own personal helicopter on the ABC budget, in and out from home to here, and we also have ABC minions throwing rose petals in front of it. This is our celebrity status, and there's celebrities who are music celebrities, sports celebrities, political celebrities. He has used his political celebrity status for good. There's a terrible disease. It's caused by a worm, the Guinea worm. He's reduced the number of cases from 3.5 million to 5.
And I should point out, this is set to become the second disease in history, human disease, that has been totally eradicated.
Yes. And the worm starts off as a little larvae floating in the water, and then comes a flea. And the flea thinks dinner and eats it. And then the human comes along and drinks the water. And so the flea goes into your gut. And then, once it's been in the gut, then the acids dissolve the flea and release the larvae. And the male and female larvae wriggle out, unaffected by the acids, not too sure how, and make their way into the wall of your stomach, the muscle wall. And then they migrate into your body. And they get
Hang on, before you go any further, we should warn people this is particularly gross at breakfast time because...
bad things happen.
Well, yes.
But it has a happy ending.
If you've seen Alien, you might get the impression that that's the direction
we're heading down
in.
that pathway.
Yeah.
And then, after 3 months of age, the male and female larvae are big and strong, and then they love each other very much in a special way. And then the female is pregnant, and then the male dies, and we put it gently, is absorbed. The female then wriggles through the muscles. You think, muscles? So imagine you're trying to go through a field of corn. You can't run through it, but you can sort of push your way through. So she wriggles around the body for about a year, and after 1 year, the time is right to deliver the bounty of her belly to the world. And so she creates some acid and burns through your skin and comes out through, normally, the lower part of your body. But she can come through the nipples, male or female, or through the eyeball. This worm, 1 metre long, and the thickness of a spaghetti noodle, and very painful. And you, the person who are affected, are so much in pain that you will rush to the nearest pond of water, and then thousands, tens of thousands of larvae will go into the water, and so the life cycle has been completed.
And what happens? The worm emerges. Do you just
over
pull it out?
Over a period of weeks and months, and all that time you're in
when
pain.
When it emerges, why can't you just pull it out in one?
You can break the head off, but you've got the rest of the metre body in your...
So you keep breaking it off, it's a typical worm, it keeps regenerating?
No, if you break it off, you've broken it off, but the bit inside dies, right. And then bacteria will invade and you'll have to have your leg amputated.
So it's all bad.
So what you do is you wind onto a little stick. You know the medical symbol, the staff of Asclepius with the twin sticks? Still use it today. They wind it out slowly. And so it costs a lot of money to the world.
So how did President Carter...
he was the lame duck president, because on his watch...
Now he's doing good.
Immediately he started using his celebrity status for good. And so he'd go into a country and he'd say, Generalissimo Andrew, King of New South Wales, how about we get rid of the worm? You can have all the credit. And this is what we do. And he'd provide all the infrastructure. He even jumped into bed with a couple of big industrial chemical supply companies and made a sieve that is fine enough to filter out the flea, and yet robust enough to be passed and used for weeks and weeks. And so people would drink this water that was clean. And so finally they'd announce that the country was free of this Guinea worm, and they'd stand on stage, and Generalissimo Andrew would take all the credit, and in the background would be, oh, now here's President Carter, who'd come on, and President Carter would say, yes, you, Generalissimo Andrew, you're a wonderful person, you've done this, you take all the credit. And he'd do this from country to country around the world. And even in Sudan, where they've had a civil war for 40 years. They even had a ceasefire that he brokered so they could drop down the worm numbers.
It is quite remarkable, isn't it? As I said, it's set to be the second human disease in history to be eradicated, the first one being smallpox.
Yeah.
And also the first to be eradicated without the use of vaccines.
Yes, because you can break the complex life cycle. Because it's a flea, there's a flea in there, and there's the water. The flea, you can kill it with a fairly benign, quite benign pesticide. The water, just have a filter. And so he's orchestrated that around the world. And you have these people, these volunteers in these poor countries, they get a yellow T-shirt and they think they're as happy as Larry. And if they're really a big-time volunteer, they get a crappy old bicycle that you and I would throw out, which would cost them 5 years' wages. So he had the choice of brokering his celebrity status into fabulous wealth, but instead he became a plumber. He calls himself a plumber. And think about it. If you don't have plumbers, you don't have civilization. And so he did the good for humanity. And he says he's just got one wish. He's now 86 years old. And he says, I want to outlive the worm. So, but you need 5 years clear in a country where you can say the worm is definitely gone. I mean, it's such a good thing he's done.
But why the worm? There are many other diseases that could be eradicated.
True, but this one could be done by one person for about a third of a century, and that's what he did. He picked a goal that was achievable, gave up everything else, and sent himself down this pathway. Oh, sure, he'll be lauded to the heavens, and so he should be. But he could have taken it easy and lived the high life, and he decided to go and do good for poor people.